Welcome back to Boomer's Playground, and this is going to be the first video where I'm trying to go over more of the concepts that were used or taught, and people are having a little difficulty kind of wrapping their heads around the whys or how to actually use them. So I'm going to start with functions and the return keyword, and a lot of this I'm just going to use the information from the isShortsWeather function just because it has data that is good and I don't have to think of anything. So let's break down the structure of a function, and then we can kind of go over why they exist and why did we even need to learn what they do or what they are. So there are two main things about a function. There's the creation and there's the calling. So the creation is, function, and then the name of function, then you do the parens, and then you do opening and closing curly brackets, and then you do all your stuff here. Now the key word in this is it's the creation of the function. So you can think of a function like a recipe. You want to put something in a function when you're going to do it a lot, or when you need to have access to that function outside of the file that it's in. And you might be asking, why would it not be in the file? And we're going to go over that after I kind of go over the core features or the core things of a function. So that's the creation. Then there's also the calling or the instantiation of the function. And so that is going to be this. So it's just the function name, and then you do the opening, closing parens as well. And then you can also do, if you're further along or if you know ES6, you could do name of, we'll do another one. We'll do func name. And again, this is just the creation of that function. And then down here, you call it the same name. If you haven't got to ES6 or you're just in the beginning function part of Colt Steele's course or some other course, just ignore this for now. You'll get there. It's not a huge deal. It's just a different way to write it. So, and there are other implications, but again, if you're not there, don't worry about it yet. So these are the core two ideas of a function is you create a function and you call a function. So we have those out of the way. So your next, or probably the question when I said, you might want access to that function outside of the file it's in, you may have asked like, oh, well, why wouldn't I just put it in that file? Well, what if you want to call this function in multiple places? Okay, well, that seems like a reasonable argument, but if you're at this level in the course, you might be thinking it just doesn't make sense to you yet. And so what'll happen is when you're in a real project or a big project is you may have one thing that you want to do, and you may want to do it in a bunch of places. So just for instance, if something, do stuff else, do other stuff. And this is just a dumb example just so I can explain something here. So let's say whatever this function is, we know we need to call it in 500 different areas. Well, if we don't have a function, we have 5 lines of code. And if we did that 500 times, we've got 2,500 lines of code. That's a lot of lines that are doing the same thing. So by wrapping it in this function, we now, because remember, calling the function is just this line right here. So we now call this function 500 times every time we want to call it or use it. And we write this one time. So we went from 2,500 lines of code to 9. And the other key point is, if you're typing this every single time, if you type this same thing 500 times, I guarantee you will make a mistake in one of those times. Whereas when we put it in this function, we wrap it in this nice recipe, the chances of you mistyping this one thing is pretty slim. It's far less likely than when you have to write this 500 times. So that's a key reason that functions are so important in JavaScript and really in any language ever. And depending on the language, some people call them methods, some people call them functions. They're more or less used interchangeably. Depending on the language you're using, there is a difference in some of them, but some people will argue with you till your dying day. I wouldn't bother. It's not a good use of your time. Go learn something new. So I think this is a good start. So we understand the two parts of a function, which are the creation and the calling. We kind of understand like why we want to create a function. You may not fully, and that's fine. This is the part of JavaScript where you're truly having to think like a programmer, and we're going to see in an instance here why. Because when you're creating functions, you're starting to use data that isn't in the same file as the function. And this is when it starts to get kind of abstract, and you've really got to stop. And if this is your first time into programming, and this is where you're at right now, it is 1,000,000% understandable for you not to understand and to be a little confused. That is perfectly okay. So I'm going to get rid of this because I'm going to assume anybody who watches this is not super familiar with the new ES6 function. So we're going to stick with this. So let's do this. We'll just get rid of all this. So up until this point, all of your exercises and products or projects have more or less been, everything's been in the same file. You know, we'll have a weather temp. We'll just do temp, and we'll say it's 10. And then, for instance, this is a function exercise, but up until now they would have said like check if it's over, if it's 75 or over, and you would have done this, and you would have done this is false, this is true, and you'd be like, sweet, awesome, thanks, enjoy. And that's all well and fine, but again, let's say you had some animations or you needed to check this for a reason. All right, well, let's do this. And I'm gonna comment this out, but we're gonna come back to that, and I'm doing that for a reason. So let's create our function. It is shorts weather, and it says we're gonna take an argument. From my understanding, when you're creating the function, whatever you pass in is a parameter, not an argument. Most people use them interchangeably, and this is another one of those things. People will die on this hill, and I just don't think it's worth it. So call them whatever you want, but I'm going to use what I've been taught is the correct terminology, but it really doesn't matter. So creating func is param. So here it says we're going to get a temperature param, and we need to do our checks in here. Okay, cool. So when you're creating the function and you're going to get this value, like I said, again, it's called a param argument, whatever, it doesn't matter. The key aspect here is what kind of data this is going to be. So here it even tells us, it says we're going to get a single number. So while we don't know what number it's going to be, and we can really call this whatever we want. We can call this temp. We can call this, temp number. We can call this Boomer's Playground. As long as we use that same name down here in our function, we'll be fine. Because all this parameter argument is just a placeholder. It's just saying, hey, when I call you, I'm going to give you a value. And I saw a lot of people when I was still on the Discord that were just like, well, how do I know what it is? You'll be given that information. And like I said, right here, it even tells us This is our boss saying, hey, write me a function. You're going to get a number. Okay, sweet. So we know it's a number. So we know we can do number things in this function. So let's do this. We'll do if, and we'll move it back to temperature. And then we'll do temperature is greater than or equal to 75. Else, all right. And so here, and here's another thing is it's telling us to return it, but I see a lot of people console logging it. So I'm going to do this. So we'll do console log, and we'll just do inside. And I'm putting inside so we know whether we're inside the function or outside the function, and you'll see why in a second. Okay, so all right, we save here. We clear all my syntax errors from when I was typing because CodePen auto saves even though I unclicked it. And we're gonna save it, and we don't see nothing. Okay, that's fine. Wonder why that is. Well, if you guys remember from the beginning of the video, there's two parts to a function. There's the creation, which these are just the steps. This is just saying, hey, when I call you, I need you to do these steps every single time. So we still need to call it. So let's call it. We'll do shorts weather and we'll pass it 10. And you'll see we get false and it's inside of the function. Okay. Let's change it to 85 or 185. I don't really care. And now you'll see it's true. So if you did this and you were kind of trouble, if you did this, the test is going to fail for this exercise. And I'm going to explain why in a second. But you may have been troubleshooting, but like, well, I'm getting the right value. This makes no sense. Well, what a test is doing and what you're likely going to do on the job and in any project that you have is you're going to be listening for what the function gives you back. So when you do a console.log, all it's doing is logging it to the console. Nobody else knows about this. So this isn't very helpful for us as a programmer or for our project. So what it's telling you to do is it's telling you to return a value from the function. And we can tell what this value is returning. So we'll do outside. So we know we're outside of the function. And we'll do that. And you'll see, so this is inside the function, so ignore that one. But you'll see outside, the function's giving us undefined. And so if you went this route where you use console log on that exercise, this is why this failed. And it's because the test is looking for what did this is shorts weather give me back? And you can see it gave us back undefined. And the reason for that is the default return value of a function is undefined. So if you don't give it any other return value, that's what we get, and the test is going to fail. So we can easily fix that by just adding the return value. And so now you'll see outside we get true, which is because we put 185 as the temperature. And if we do 10, you'll see we get false. And that's again because this is shorts weather is returning or giving us back whatever we returned inside of the function here. And why this is important is, again, a lot of times this function, this function is not going to be in the same file as all of your data. So let's do this. So like a lot of times what you'll do is you will have a helpers.js or something like this. You'll have a helpers file where you have a bunch of functions that you use throughout your project and you keep them in one area. So this right here is a file. And then this will be our show shorts.h, whatever. It'll be a show shorts file, so like the front end for it. And what you do is, and the syntax will be different depending on what language you're using, but we would do something like import is shorts weather from, helpers.js. And then again, so where these two things are, we're pretending these are different files. Now it's going to yell at us down here, so but ignore that. So what we'll do is we'll bring this in, and then we'll have, we'll have a temp of whatever, we'll grab that from an API or whatever, and we'll just say it's like 10. And then now what we can do is we can do should show shorts, and here we can do is shorts weather. We'll pass it in that temp, and this should show shorts value is now going to have a true or false value. And again, let's please pretend that this is a new file and this import statement is actually working. It's not, it's just using this up here. But this is me just trying to explain why functions are so valuable and why they're so important. So here what we can do is we can console log, should show shorts. And I messed something up. Okay, why is this not? Is shorts weather? Sorry, I'm just making sure I have all the, I'm not just like missing a stupid spelling error. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. I don't use CodePen a whole lot, but this was the best layout to see console logs and still see the code. So again, let's pretend this is in its own file. We're importing, so now this is a whole nother file. We're importing that function, and now we have this value. We're passing it in to this isShortsWeather, and it's giving us something back. So we're saying, hey, whatever this function gives us back, set it equal to this should show shorts variable. And we can check it here to make sure it's working both ways. You'll see we get true. And then likely what you would do is, like, I'm pretending this is like an e-commerce page. You would just do if should show shorts, and then you can show like all the shorts in your inventory, or you could show like all the long pants in your inventory, or whatever the case may be. And that's why this is so important. So now let's do this. So now we'll go back to the console.log. And again, I'm going to do inside so we know when it's inside and when it's not. And so now we can do console.log, and we'll do outside. And you'll see we get undefined. And so that's why the return is so important, because in this instance, isShortsWeather does not give us back anything, so this value is undefined. And that's why the return is important, and that's why you almost always will return from a function. Very, very rarely will all you do is be a console log. So just get in the habit of returning the thing you want from the function. So, and then here again, we're sitting pretty. And so we're good there. And so another thing is, like I said, this can be anything. This right here, it's just a placeholder, and that's really all there is to functions. I know this seems, it's probably pretty short. I'm hoping it answered some of your questions. This is just another one of those things. No video is going to give you all the information. You just need to go out and use it. And if you really just want to mess around and you're not sure how, just do it about, I do about blank. You don't have to. You can really open the console in anything. But just, right click, inspect, and then I'll usually do this. Go to your console here. This is the developer tools. And in here, you can just write JavaScript code and play with it. So like, let's see, can drink, and we'll take an age, and we'll do this, and actually I think one little thing, so we'll do that. With the developer tools, when you're hitting enter or return, a lot of times you have to hold shift. So just kind of keep that in mind if this is the route you go to play with stuff. And so then in here we can do, if age, and I'm in America, so if age is greater than or equal to 21, we can return true, else, return false. And then we can do, and again, remember that was just us creating the function. And so we have this function now. We need to pass it something because again, we gave it a parameter or an argument here. So when we created the function up here, we said, hey, you are going to get a value. So here we do 18, it's going to be false. We do 21, it's going to be true. We do 56 or 52, it's going to be true as well. And within a function, you can return more than just true or false. So I'm going to do, let's see, function can buy cigs. And again, we'll do an age. And again, I'm in America, so if you're 18, you can buy them. If you're not, so we'll do or 18. And then we can do return, you can smoke your butt off. And then down here, we can do else, return, sorry, you are too young to smoke. And again, we're just creating the function and we're letting it know, hey, you're going to get a value. And then again, we can just call it can buy cigs and we'll do 10. Sorry, you're too young. You'll see we got that as the return. And then we can do 21 and you can smoke your butt off. So you can return any type of value. Don't get too caught up on that now. If you're watching this video, you likely are just getting into functions. One other thing I want to add super quick, again, don't get too caught up in this, but you can pretty much, and so I'm going to refresh. So in the, when you're playing in the console, it remembers all your stuff, even if you clear it. So sometimes you have to refresh the page. So let's do, we'll do can drink again. And you can pass in more than one parameter to a function. So, certain parts of the world you can drink when you're 18, and some parts of the world you have to wait till you're 21. So let's say we're an international company. We don't know which one's which. We can do age and we can do age to drink. And so now we're saying, hey, we're going to pass you this function and we're going to give you two parameters or two arguments. And so we know that age is going to be the age of the person, and we know that age to drink is going to be how old you have to be to drink in that area. Now, again, these can be named whatever they want except for reserved JavaScript keywords, but it's always good to err on the side of readability. So our boss told us to write this. He said, hey, I'm going to give you two numbers. One's going to be the age. One's going to be the age to drink. So we know this. So we don't have to guess, oh, I wonder what this is. I wonder what that is. We know what it's going to be because our boss told us when he gave us this task, and that will usually be the scenario. They will give you the information that you need to write these functions. So now we can just do if age is greater than or equal to age to drink, then we can return, party up, else, call a taxi. And again, we're just creating the function. We're not calling it yet. So we can do can drink, and we'll say 10, and we'll say, we'll say you're outside of America and 18 is legal. Okay, well, 10 is the age of the person, and 18 is the age they need to be to drink. Well, that's good because that's what we're looking for. And then we can change this to 32, and now you'll see it says party up. So I like to mess around in the developer tools. If I'm having trouble working at something at work and something's not working how I expect, I'll just come down here and do some dumb data like this to make sure I understand what's going on. But that's kind of the beginner level function stuff. Again, if you don't understand this all, or if you still have questions, that's okay, and it's completely fine. Leave them in the comment section below. I do have an email, but the comment section is going to be the best because then everybody gets to see your question and everybody gets to learn from it. I do try and respond as quick as I can, but I do have a social life, so sometimes it does take me a little bit, and sometimes you guys are in different parts of the world where I may be sleeping when you ask that question. So I hope this cleared up functions a little bit. I'm going to go through the next couple exercises and see what they use and see if there's some more stuff I can add on to this. Not in the same video, it'll be a new one. But I hope you guys like this. Like, share, and subscribe. And if you guys have any other questions, leave them in the comment section below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.